Hello.
Hello. Hi, Minna.
Hi, Sophie. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, very good today. I'm super excited about the day because it is indeed our 10th episode of Money Conversations. Welcome, everyone. Can you believe it? We already
Ah,
had 10 amazing conversations about financial well being. And yeah, today's topic is one of the most important ones yet, teaching kids about money.
yeah, absolutely. And for those joining us for the first time, maybe we want to quickly introduce ourselves. I'm gonna start. So I'm Sophie, Dr. Sophie Jablonski. I'm a scientist, a life coach, and a positive psychology expert. And I help people to embrace a healthier relationship with money. That's what we do with Flourish Financially by building confidence, clarity, and purpose in their financial lives. In other words, as we say here, flourish financially.
Yes, and I am Minna Schmidt. I'm a financial planner and a financial well-being coach, especially working with women. I'm really passionate about helping women to build more financial freedom and security, and have them basically have their money work for them and not the other way around. So together we have created this money conversation series. This is now episode 10 already, to help kind of bridge the gap between financial literacy and emotional well-being. So we know that money is not just about the numbers, but it's also really about the mindset and the habits and the confidence that you have. So that's why we're here to talk about this.
Yeah, that's so good. And so we want to encourage the audience to participate today. So we're going to ask a few prompts as we go, and actually, we can just get started right now. So for everyone who wants to jump in, you can make a comment from wherever you're watching this live from. So it could be LinkedIn or maybe Facebook. And we should be receiving your comment in our window. That's the way we can actually interact with you while we're live. And then we're going to bring some of the comments on screen, and we can that way make sure that everybody who wants can get their comment addressed. So let's start with a simple but powerful question, Minna, if you'd like. What's the best piece of money advice you've ever received? And there we want to say maybe from a parent, maybe from a mentor, or even something that you wish you'd learned earlier.
Yeah, that's a really great question. We hope to hear from the audience as well. What was it for you? But what about you, Sophie? What's yours?
Yeah, for me, I would say it was not to be too focused on the short term or the survival horizon, if I can say like that. So, and if possible, look at the big picture. The reason why this is sticking out for me is because in my younger years, also when I was a student, I was very careful with spending, and in a way, I was really pushing the approach of sticking to your budget and living within one means. And we'll see later, it also comes from my childhood, right? But I remember at some point that my mother was, for example, commenting that maybe I was over focused on trying to save really little amount of money at this point. And she was trying to tell me, you'll soon be earning a salary, you'll soon be able to afford more of these kind of things. And this really made me realize that there's this importance in also looking at the longer term and sometimes the wider perspective in terms of time frame. What about you, Mina?
Well, just to say first, I love that the story of yours, and I think this is something, at a young age we can also have some experiences or educate ourselves, for example, that is not so easily available for us maybe later. So at some point you may want to be spending more because the return for you is higher from doing that. So I love that message from your mom. Mine would be probably that I was kind of taught to spend money on experiences rather than on material things to impress others. For example, my family, I mean, we would love to go to do like some outdoor activities, like going skiing, for example. But as you know, skiing can be an expensive hobby, and we didn't have that much money, so kind of to prioritize, we used the money we had to be able to do that trip together. But we saved on everything else. So we would, for example, take food along, sandwiches, and not go to the ski restaurant to eat, or we didn't buy any expensive ski clothes. We would just get like from the secondhand shop or somewhere, borrow from the relatives, but still be able to actually do that trip together. So prioritizing the experience and not the material things.
Yeah, and yeah, so interesting, right? I mean, two completely different stories, but in a way also two very valuable perspectives for the adults that we've become in a way. And now maybe let's see what the audience has to say about that. If anyone wants to share in the comments, perhaps what was one of these best advice or piece of advice that you've received growing up by people around you. And at the moment, we don't have any comments, so
tell us if you have something in mind, and then sometimes it takes a while until the comments update on our site, so we can then post it here for others to learn as well. But yeah, it is really important kind of to recognize this, right? The way we kind of think and talk about money, it really shapes our habits as well for life.
yeah.
And maybe we should go ahead to the first content part, how we can help kids start off with the best possible mindset. And maybe before we do, I see there are comments coming in now from Félicie, so I'm just gonna put here. Not sure it was the best advice, but it was don't spend money you don't have.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Felicity. I think this is a very common version of the many ones, right? Money doesn't grow on trees, or you can't, nothing in life is free in a way. I mean, it has some truth to it, right? If you overspend what you have, it is not sustainable on the long term, of course.
No, and we're going to see actually when we look at the different age brackets that there's also obviously value in understanding also for kids that indeed the money is coming from somewhere actually, and that it is in a way associated with, as we're going to see, with in a way effort or the value you produce to the world, and that it's been remunerated in that manner. All right, thank you, Félicie. So maybe let's move on indeed to the first segment,
so this is the important truth, right? What we want to get started. How kids develop money habits? Well, here's the thing: kids don't learn money from school; they learn it from us, from their parents.
Yes, totally. And research actually shows that by age 7 already, that's very young, right? Kids have already formed many of their financial habits. And why is that? Well, I mean, we all have this in mind, but obviously the kids' brains are like sponges, and they're constantly picking up on how we talk about money, how we spend money, how we behave, and also how we experience money. For example, whether we experience it more as something empowering or maybe stressful. And we know now, of course, with neuroscience, like the brain plasticity, that young brains are absorbing these financial habits through observation and also experience. So it's both in parallel. And their executive function, so the ability to plan, to self-regulate, and to make some of the financial decisions, is developing already over childhood. I mean, slowly, obviously, but still absorbing what's going on. And it means that they're gonna actually learn how to manage money much earlier than we'd like to think sometimes. And so parents and caregivers, they play the biggest role in shaping the financial mindset of kids already that young.
Absolutely. And that goes about emotions as well, right, Sophie?
Yeah, and we may want to admit it or not, but money is not purely rational. It is emotional for many of us, and studies also show that our emotional experiences as children are shaping, in a way, the way we will experience emotionally money as a later stage in life, like when we become adults. And as we know as well, it means that these emotions are linked to how we think about money, but also how we behave around money. And it could be that if money was very stressful, for example, when you grew up in your home, you may not necessarily intentionally pass those anxieties also to your own kids, because you have absorbed it and you are behaving in a certain way. And I'd be interested, Minna, actually, to what would you say we can do about it as parents?
Well, I mean, one thing for sure is that we can start by modeling positive financial behaviors at home. What could this look like, right? One is to talk about money openly without fear or shame or secrecy. We can, of course, start involving the kids in small financial decisions. For example, in the daily life when we're going grocery shopping, or if they want a certain toy, like how to budget for that. And we can also use kind of playing and financial storytelling in a way to introduce these key money concepts, because that's how we learn, right? We learn as children through play and through listening to stories. And things like that can kind of help to make money concepts more familiar to the kids. So, for example, just a classic of playing shop and buying something from the shop that younger kids love to play.
Indeed, they love it, right? And I also love it. I think that play is such a great way to learn. And this makes me think also that in terms of emotions, we may also want to think how we can reframe certain things. For example, instead of saying, I don't know, like, we can't afford that, we could decide to reframe it as, actually, we're choosing. So it's really about the intention. We're choosing to spend money on something else right now that's more important for us, and that could be really changing the kind of emotion that's attached to the spending of that money that we have, which, well, by definition, for most of us, is going to be limited in a certain way.
Absolutely. So I love this. So in summary, basically, kids don't just learn what money is, but they kind of learn how to feel about it. And we want to kind of make that feeling an empowering one.
Totally, totally. And I think it's a nice moment now to check in a bit with the audience that's with us today. And if you'd like to maybe indicate in the comment section if you remember your parents actually ever talking about money, or maybe not talking about money, and whether it was open, positive, or more maybe stressful, more maybe secretive even.
Yes, it would be really great to hear. That's just such a great thing to try to remember how it was. And Sophie, how was it for you when you were growing up? How was the kind of the money culture in your home?
Yeah, interesting. Oh, that really made me think. I mean, we've had a few conversations, but for sure, what I recall now is that when money was discussed, I would say it was very often my father discussing it and not so much my mother. And what he would tell us was that we were very fortunate to have enough money for what we needed. And he used to refer quite a bit to his own experience, how he grew up himself in poverty because his father died when he was quite young. And then his mother had been very stressed about that specific situation. And he mentioned the word poverty, right? That they were poor. And he gave specific example, like he couldn't afford to have that pair of shoe or maybe the extra pair of shoes that was needed for whatever, the sport or this kind of thing. And also that it was really a luxury to buy some of the books as well. And in the same way, he made it clear that education was kind of like the ticket out of that it was really the best investment you could make. And that with this education, you could get a good job, and then it would ensure that you wouldn't fall into poverty. So for me, I really assimilated that as poverty is something very unfortunate and really to be avoided because it sounded really stressful. And the strategy that he taught us was really, okay, live within your means. So you go back to the first examples I was saying earlier. I was really about, okay, you have a budget, stick to the budget. And we have a saying in French, we say un sou est un sou. So in English would be something like a cent is a cent. And meaning, every little bit counts. And I remember also he would refer very often to that famous La Fontaine fable with the grasshopper and the ant. I think it was better to be the ant. I want to precise in that teaching.
I love that story, and I think it really, of course, reflects his experience, right? He didn't want his children to experience the same, and he wanted to teach you like how to be careful and how to kind of ensure that you don't end up in the same situation. So sometimes that goes too far as well, right? But I'm sure good intentions were behind it. From my side, I realized that I was kind of growing up in an exceptionally financially equal environment. I grew up in Finland, where kind of money is not really a big topic, and this is the same for other Nordic countries as well. That it's very equal, right? So where I was growing up, for example, everyone seemed to be doing okay, right? Financial perspective. There were no big differences in wealth, which is quite different from many countries or many places in the world. So there were no particularly rich people around, but also not particularly poor people, everyone the same. So you kind of didn't discuss about money that much. For sure, we didn't have too much of it. So I was taught kind of not to spend money on useless things, kind of like you, save when it's possible. But it was also kind of important to enjoy things in life, like going to amusement park or travel or something like that. And everyone seemed to have a relatively similar standard of living. And from a child's perspective, you could maybe notice that, one family, they had like, several TV sets. We had just one, or, I shared the bedroom with my sister, and others, they maybe had a separate room for each kid. But I didn't see like any real wealth from very close by. So it's interesting, like it wasn't a thing.
Yeah, so interesting. And we get a comment from Dirte, I think, about the culture, right? How it was with her parents. So thank you, Dirte. My parents didn't talk openly about it. We also didn't buy luxurious goods, standard middle class. Yeah, totally. And that's interesting how we absorb that, like what it means to be normal, or what it means in our own views, yes, as kids, to be either rich or poor. And as Minna was saying, to not really have necessarily that notion either. So I had it on one side, maybe. Okay, so it's fascinating, right? When you start to
it really is.
Yeah. Okay. I
Very
think we
good.
want to move on to the next segment because we want to give a few, let's say, ideas around like age appropriate strategies. And we're gonna talk about the younger kids. Well, that kind of corresponds also to where we're at in terms of being the mom of such kids, Minna. But there's a bit of research out there on also different age brackets. And I think a lot of the research has been focused also on younger adults in the sense of when they enter university. So that's quite interesting we start to see an emerging body of knowledge around that topic of what financial education can be beneficial for different age brackets. So the rather young. So tell me, Minna, where do we start?
Yes, let's start with the youngest ones first. So ages 3 to 5. This is kind of the time where kids begin to understand that money even exists, right? But they don't, of course, kind of fully grasp what these different values and what does it kind of mean. And at this stage, the focus is usually on introducing money as a concept through playing and everyday experiences, and kind of perhaps wanting them to see that money is about choices. Do we spend it now, or do we rather save it for something special? But of course, these are young kids, so we should make this really fun and engaging and not too much of a focus.
So how do we do that?
Yeah, exactly. So some simple activities, ideas. So we already mentioned the shopkeeper play, right? Letting kids use pretend money to buy and sell things, and what is the value of exchange. You could use the savings jar trick. So where you put different jars where you say, this is for spending, this is for saving, this is for giving. So they can visually see kind of the money grow and learn about different ways to use it. And of course, kids love stories, right? So there are several books nowadays that are about money. And if you have, by the way, some great ones, you can put in the comments. One of those is this book called Bunny Money by Rosemary Wells. It's like a fun way to read about what money is.
Yeah, it sounds really fun, actually. I mean, I know that I think a lot of my friends and me included, I used to have, of course, the piggy bank, which is really like the way to save. And I'm thinking also when we were sorting, right? When we were sorting things, toys or like clothing, this idea of giving out, but to put it as money, I think it's interesting, right? I mean, you can start already even at that age introducing this concept. And also, I think what really strikes me is this idea of being already at that age patient, almost, that you know that you're going to be able to buy something later with what you're saving, and that form of like self-regulation and patience is really so important. Dear audience, now over to you. Is there something, some specific possible money game that you've tried, either with your kids or that maybe you remember, because 3 to 5 years old is quite young to remember perhaps for yourself, but maybe someone else told you that you were playing that, that you think is relevant here, that you'd like to share with us and with the other people present. I loved playing the shopkeeper. That was really fun.
That is really fun. Absolutely. Perhaps while we wait for comments, I can mention the story from my daughter, because she's 5 years old, so she fits into this bracket. And yeah, she gets a little pocket money, but of course she doesn't really like fully grasp numbers, so it's not like so relevant to her yet. But at least we want to start introducing this. But once she was in the supermarket with her father, and somehow he was saying something like, "Oh, we can't just spend money on that," or who has the money for this, or some comments like this, right? Just to avoid buying the toys or the candies or whatever she was asking for. And then she really like listened to it, and very sweetly kind of she said that, oh, if you don't have money, my husband, then I can give you from my pocket money in case you don't have any money left. And which has really made us all laugh, but also made us realize that kids really absorb these things. They listen to the things that we say about money, and sometimes we could make them worried, like although we really didn't mean it, we were just like trying to avoid like having to buy something that she was asking for. So we need to watch out how we counter these requests.
Yes, it's interesting because it's really about how to be open and still be age appropriate, right? So it's always a bit of a delicate balance.
Like we don't buy that because we don't have the money, but because we choose to buy something else, or save it, invest it, whatever else we want to do with it. Yes.
Oh, we've got a comment here, so that's really good. From the youngest age, yes. So from Dirte, sorry, up.
Here. So not at that age. I started teaching my kid about money during elementary school. Yes. So if she wanted some new toys or books or clothes, she needed to sell her old things first. Very nice.
Interesting.
Love that. Yes, that's a very nice way to put it. You already have so many things here. It's not just about getting more and more and more, right? But also having the things that you really appreciate, and what is their value to you, right? I love that.
And in fact, it corresponds quite well, right? Because we're going to move on to this kind of like the older bracket, 6 to 9. And we're seeing that in this example from Dirte also is about like where the money comes from, to understand that it's not going to materialize like that, or it's not necessarily coming from the parents' pocket, although it could. But in this case, that there is value in some of the other items that she has before and that she can sell to make some money. So yeah, Minna, tell me what's next. How did we look?
So let's go to the next one. So age is kind of 6 to 9. So that's when kids start really connecting money to effort and to decision making. So those concepts, like you were saying, where does this money come from? It is not just that it just magically appears, it's earned, and that it needs to be also managed wisely. So that's kind of the age where that kind of ideas come.
Mm-hmm.
And we can start to introduce to the kids these kind of 3 big ideas, I would say.
Okay.
So one is this one, right? The earning and the effort, teaching that money comes from work, for example. You could be, for example, doing small chores and then you get pocket money. Budgeting basics, right? Like this idea of deciding how much you want to spend this week, or how much you want to spend on that toy, or how much you want to maybe save for later, or give to others. Of course, also gratitude and generosity. So encouraging the kids to think about how can money be used to help others. And what do you think, Sophie? How can we make this practical and fun for this age group?
Yeah, so I mean, one way to make this practical and possibly fun is, for example, you give small chores in exchange for pocket money. So it means there's taking the responsibility of doing something for the family, for example, and they can also experience in that way the relation between making the effort to complete the task, to get to a certain result that's tangible, and getting money in exchange. So that's one example. Another one is to create a simple budget that you can give them to manage, and let them decide how much they want to, indeed, the 3 jars that we were talking earlier. So how much they want to spend, how much they want to save, how much they possibly want to give. and let them really decide, be the decision makers on their own budget. That's kind of a cool one. And of course, the last one, we probably all did, at least I for sure remember doing that, which is to play money games. So the famous ones we know, Monopoly, Junior, depending exactly on the age bracket, you can adapt. Or some other money game. I mean, in English, there is one game that's called the allowance game. So that's linked to budgeting. That's quite a fun one. I mean, in French, there are a few other games that I remember from my childhood. Yeah, that's really ways to make it practical and fun.
Yes, and here's one idea as well that I found quite nice to teach about this giving and generosity. So with our kids, we usually have kind of a joint family discussion about giving money. Usually we do it like around Christmas, and we discuss together kind of different options on where we could donate. For example, could be for the Red Cross or some nature or climate change related objective or giving to poor families. And in that discussion, we try to explain why it's kind of important for us to give to others, since we're quite doing well. And just having that conversation, I think, is about the different options and how we can help others. And the kids kind of get to choose which kind of destinations we would give to, right? And I think that's a nice way to involve them into that, right?
Definitely. No, I think it's really interesting, and also I love that it's bringing the topic of gratitude. It's a very core topic also in positive psychology. We know it helps to develop a healthy mindset in general, but I would say here the healthy mindset in relation to money. So knowing what it means to be generous, and to, in a way, learn how this can also reduce the scarcity mindset, like what we're all secretly afraid of, right? It's almost like a dirty expression when we look into the psychological angle of money mindset, but it's at the same time very common, and it comes from this fear of missing, right? So even some of the things I was saying earlier, I mean, definitely we can go there quite easily, and generosity can really be a good lever in that way. So also, it's about the formulation. It's what you said. So it's not about, hey, you have to donate, right? It's really more about encouraging reflection and saying, how would you like to help someone else with your money?
And it could be with your money or something else, right? You can also help in other ways, right? But having that thinking already happen is very valuable.
So, yeah, and I wanted to ask you actually, when did you first learn about budgeting, you'd say?
That's a great question. Don't know exactly, but probably when I was like around the kind of 12 to 13 years old, because that's when I kind of started to really be eager to do like some jobs or earn my own money, and then I could then go ahead and use it, for example, to buy my Levi's jeans or buy some makeup or whatever you want to do like at that age. And maybe here's like just one tip that I could offer. What I think is quite nice is, let's say if your child is asking you to buy something, like, oh, I want to get new sneakers or something like that, instead of just going to the shop and buying it for them, instead you could give them a specific budget amount, and then let them see what options are there and make that choice. See if they can manage to keep the budget, or what happens if they can't keep the budget. And maybe this kind of lets them learn a bit more in practice, kind of the value of money and kind of how to handle it as well. So letting them in of course not too big decisions, but in a nice way, kind of to be more responsible about the money. I think that's a nice way to do it.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's very to me, I can really relate to that. I love also how it's placing things in this idea of there's a budget, for example, for shoes, or this is the budget that would have for, I don't know, sweets or entertainment. So I know that when I was a kid, we would go to the supermarket, grocery shopping, and I would have a mini budget for me, which was the budget for whatever I wanted. And it was, let's say, small enough compared to the overall bill. So I also had this notion, right, that we don't spend, I don't know, 100% of the budget on entertainment, for example, or toys, but I could buy whatever I wanted with that. And I remember it was really, I loved how I could see, well, the different prices and thinking, okay, so I could get that or I could get that. And to have this possibility to decide for yourself is really empowering. So yeah, really, really nice. And okay, what about the next stage, Minna, when they start thinking perhaps about bigger financial goals?
Yes, so this is an exciting stage, Sophie. So when we have grown up to this sort of preteen or teen age years, right? So that's of course when kids are ready for more responsibility and bigger financial concepts, and of course they're developing kind of these critical thinking skills and starting to plan for the future, which means that we can also start introducing them to things like banking and investing basics,
Okay.
teaching them about different bank accounts, how you earn interest, how you can invest in the stock markets, maybe digital money, things like that. Entrepreneurial thinking starts to develop, right? So how can they explore other ways of getting money than just getting their weekly allowance? Can they earn money in some ways, for example? And this one, the key concept kind of this delayed gratification, which is already important at younger stages as well. Here it really kind of comes even more in focus, kind of, for example, the power of waiting or analyzing before you're making a big purchase. So a lot of things going on then.
Yeah, that's huge, right? I mean, that's 10 to 12 more or less. Yes, that's how we said, like preteen. And how can we make these lessons, these principles, into something real for them, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, there are some great ways that you can put these concepts into action. I mean, one thing for sure is, unless you have done it already earlier, then opening a kid's savings account and an investment account as well, so that they can deposit money and track their balance, and even start the habit of regularly investing money for their future. And this could be just, for example, if they get money from the grandparents for Christmas or something like that, they can have that choice, right? Of course, they should also enjoy it. They should also use probably most of it. But it's also good to learn that whenever you get some money from somewhere, a part of it you set aside for your future. And ideally, you put your money to work through investing it. So that's really key to start those habits. And from the entrepreneurial perspective, what about building some kind of mini business, right? I mean, the classic of a lemonade stand or babysitting or selling some crafts or, seeing in practice how effort can turn into income. And the last one I would say is the 30-day wait challenge, which I think would be really great for my kids at least. So if they would like to get something big, have them wait for 30 days before you decide. This is about impulse control and priorities, goal setting. Very often when they're like, they absolutely need to have something, but in 1 week time, that's already forgotten, right? At least I have that feeling with my kids.
Yeah, it's so good, right? I mean, I can see how I've been using some of these waiting challenge thing with my kids, even a bit earlier than 10 years old. And it can work very well, but it also depends on the personality of the kid, I would say.
Yes, absolutely. They're all different.
Yeah. So it's interesting. And then for the other two, savings and investment account and having a mini business. I think I was doing some of this also as a kid, so it's interesting to remind that. But it's true that it's such an important age, because that's really where kids are starting to see how money works in the real world. And all these lessons, all these experiences actually that we can provide them with, they are growing the confidence to make bigger financial decisions when the time comes.
Exactly. And of course, as they then approach their teen years and slowly getting towards adulthood, they're even, preparing for even more financial independence. So this is kind of the perfect time when you're really building the strong financial habits for your life.
Yeah, so that's like the growth mindset, right? What we like to talk about also in this field of positive psychology and other kind of psychology. And we can teach kids that money habits, the smart money habits, are learned. They are not innate. You're setting them up, and you develop the confidence in time. And one very important thing, of course, is what about mistakes, right? So if they make a mistake with their money, we can use that as a way to learn something. So, I mean, easier said than done sometimes, but the point is to try to really use reflection and not punishment. Asking, what did you learn from this experience? What would you do differently next time? And that's such an important lesson, I think, for kids and adults alike, actually.
Yeah.
And so, Minna, what would you say would be the one money lesson that we should learn as a kid? Now that we're on to lessons.
That's a great question. And I'll put the same question here also for our audience, if you have something to share. Sorry, actually, it's this question. Sorry. So what's one money habit that you wish you had learned earlier? So I think for me, the one that I would have liked to learn earlier, that is that you can earn money also through being an owner of assets, not only through working and earning money. So exchanging your time for money, but you can also earn by being an owner. It's something that I actually really internalized, like only much later even in adult life, right? So now I'm trying to teach this to my son, who is 8 years old, and started to, for example, explain to him how it is to invest in the stocks and how it works. And for example, that you can, own a part of a company as a shareholder, and you have a right to their profits when they pay dividends. And he was kind of quite interested in this and seemed like he more or less understood how it works. And then I asked him to try to think which companies he thinks would be very successful and which he would like to then own, that was the shares. And he thought about it for a while, and he said Nutella, Disney, and Nintendo. Obviously, for an 8-year-old boy, the great examples. But I thought they were actually great because those are all very successful companies. The Nutella, so Ferrero Group, who manufactures Nutella, that's a family company, so we can't buy those. But Disney and Nintendo, we can buy, and we will then kind of over time continue adding more companies, different stocks into his mini portfolio. And I think this is a nice way to see, like, oh, you can own these things, and then we can learn about more concepts like diversification and how do stocks behave. Okay, he's pretty young still, but I think it will be a kind of fun, and he will also enjoy this. So, but you know that Warren Buffett, he started investing in stocks when he was 10 years old. So, what about you, Sophie?
Yes, it's so interesting and so true, right? I mean, you can get exposed already quite young. So for me, I recall that indeed, I would say again, my father was kind of trying to expose me to that. And he would mention stocks. I mean, in one particular instance, he asked me and my sister for advice whether or not he should buy some stocks from Euro Disney at the time.
Oh, but Disney comes up again.
Yes, and I remember for me that I found it was very strange question, because I think the principles were never really explained. So it was not about, well, money can make money, which is what you explained. So it's this idea of if you own a stock, it can produce a dividend and it can make you more money. So it was not really explained. It was just this simple question. And so for me as a child, the answer was yes, obviously. And why? Well, because I think it's great. I couldn't really explain so much more than that. And so, I mean, the story goes on that in the end he was not very happy with that investment, and he ended up saying, well, you advised me like to invest in that, and now look, like it's not doing as well as. So anyway, it was not such a big deal, but I just feel like I was a bit disempowered already at that stage, that I didn't really know what it was about. But another thing that struck with me that was quite interesting still was I could see him being on the phone and making the orders, so I think there was this intention, right, to show me this is how it is, right? I mean, there is this thing that's called stock, we can buy, this is how we do it. Well, at the time you call and talking to your broker, or I don't know, and then it can make or not make money. And
that starts at least to put the seed of the idea that this is possible, and that yes, there are risks involved. It can go up, it can go down. How can you manage those risks? How do you know whether it is a good investment? I mean, all of those things, if you don't think about it at all, you probably really don't have it kind of in your mind. And what about
the audience can also participate, indeed. I think
exactly, this is
wanted to say. But it reminds me also that indeed you said Warren Buffett started to invest very early on. I think it's a bit about the parents too, right? But we could be deciding whether or not our kids could be responsible for part of the budget of their own investments, and let them really own also this idea that they can make money or not make money with it, and see what it means to them. So I think it's quite rare still that this would be the case.
Yeah, and of course it's a bit unfair to then blame the kids if the investments don't work. I think it's really, they're just learning about how that works and that they can go up and down. And that's the part of it. At least for me, I don't expect any returns from this mini portfolio for my son. It's simply to learn about the concepts and to get the feeling for it. You need some time to learn that, how to analyze stocks.
Oh, so we've got a great comment from Felicie. Thank you. I wish I had learned earlier that money was everyone's business and not only men's ones. Yeah.
A bit.
There's a gender difference in many ways, and I think it's not just in our minds. Now it's been documented, and I think that still in this day and age, many little girls are not taught in the same way about what money is, what it means, what it can do for you. And I also think it's at the heart of what Flourish Financially stands for, because we really think it's important to be able to have open, sincere discussions about this topic. And so that's why it's so great we're here today too. And involving kids, whether they are boys or girls, is also important. So thank you for this comment.
Thank you, Felicia. Yeah, this is really something that it's maybe a generational and societal issue which we really, really want to change. We start with us women, adults, right? But we are also transferring that to our children, and we make that change happen, right? So let's talk in the same way to boys and girls, and encourage especially girls to get to this as well.
That's
we have
right.
Both girls, Sophie and me, so we are going to make sure that they are investing.
Yeah. Three of them, plenty of mistakes to get through. It's gonna be fun.
Okay. Very good. Shall we move on to the last topic, which is building financial resilience and confidence?
Right.
This is it's a big topic, right? Of course, we want our kids to be resilient, like, because life happens. We don't know what kind of setbacks or challenges will hit you in your life, and teaching kids kind of how to adapt to these kind of possible setbacks is really key to financial well-being. And when we're talking about resilience, I often think about this analogy of the oak tree versus the reed. So if you're seeing an oak tree, right, it's a very strong tree, but it's very rigid, right? So it can really break under immense pressure, right? Whereas the reed, it's a tree that is probably looks more fragile in some ways, or kind of thinner, right? But it is flexible. It bends. It stays rooted. It's flexible and it's resilient. So when things happen, it can adapt. And for many people, I think what we want is for our kids to be more like this reed. So be financially also adaptable, confident, resolution oriented, right? So no matter what life throws them, that they will be prepared to handle it. So Sophie, I'd love to ask you, how do you kind of, as a parent, how do you encourage this adaptability or this resiliency?
Yeah, and I love that, because of course it's at the heart of I would say, the more modern way of seeing emotional intelligence. So it's not something about being necessarily fixed, it's something about flexibility, it's emotional flexibility. And I think when it comes to money, it's really like that. So it's about how you learn to bounce back. And it's really not about getting things right. So we need to have a way to purposely teach our kids, in a way, how to embrace also the fact that they will make mistakes and what they can learn from it. So I'd say there are 3 strategies that we can use. The first one is, as I was mentioning, to let them make small, let's say, but some financial mistakes, money mistakes, and guide them. Even you can create the opportunity for them to make this kind of mistake, and then guide them through the reflection that comes with it. What can we learn from it? What does it mean for next time? And that's, as we know, psychologically, is really this idea that you build confidence from this accumulation of small experiences, including the ones that have not been necessarily already successful from the get-go. The second thing is about problem solving. So it could be part of that conversation you have after making the mistake, or it could be about other things, but this idea to envisage options and to say, well, I mean, you're wanting to do that. For example, you're wanting to buy that thing, you're wanting to maybe make that investment. What if plan A doesn't work? So what would be plan B? To think about alternatives. And that's really one way to have this flexibility. I mean, positive psychology, we call it pathways. It's about finding options, what we do also in coaching. So having this possibility to envisage more than just one way, as there's not one single way to do anything. And then the last part, which is also what we're doing here today, what we love to do in Flourish Financially, and what we think is so important, is to have money conversation and to be able to normalize them. So talking about money with your children as much as possible, in a way, so then they can feel safe to ask questions. And not feel that it's, I don't know, a topic for grown-ups, a topic for clever ones, a topic for only one sex in the family, for example. So all of this is important, and we are the role models, right? So even if it goes a bit against our grain, because maybe we didn't get the ideal financial education, I mean, who does anyway, we can still try to, be more intentional in how we show that it's possible to be more flexible, and learning is really all around.
Right, I really love this, and it's interesting. Just came to my mind that because a lot of people, when I do financial coaching, especially a lot of mothers, they ask, how can I invest money for my kids, and how can I create a portfolio for them, which I think is a very nice thing to do and a very good intention. But somehow it's also possibly missing an opportunity if you're simply investing for your kids and making it all ready for them, and here it is, your portfolio, but you don't teach like how to grow it, or how to manage it, or how do you fix if you did some mistakes, or actually, so it's missing that part, right? If you're simply like saving and investing for someone and handing it over on a silver plate, right, to actually do that lesson. So instead, we want these kind of resilient kids who know how to do it, or who don't fear money mistakes, and they learn from them, so they can trust their own skills. And of course, also that they know it's okay to ask for help when they need it. So,
Not so true.
Oh, sorry, please.
No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to put this question to the audience as well. And I know we're getting towards the end of the time, but if anyone has thoughts to share that this may have woken up, right? Have you ever maybe learned an important money lesson from a mistake? Because we learn from mistakes, right? So you can share in the chat.
Let's say earlier or later, right? So I think what's interesting with what you were just sharing is this idea that, I mean, it's about us, parents or educators, wanting to get out of our comfort zone and experience the fact to be the witness of our children's mistakes. And I think as parents, it can be in different areas. I mean, sometimes about money, but it can be about something else. And we have become accustomed to be very wary of these kind of things. It's almost like we don't want our kids to experience any kind of discomfort from, making a mistake and failing, when in the end, we're just delaying the moment, the inevitable moment when this will happen. So yeah, we can, if we perspective, we can see maybe it's possible to do that earlier.
I see Goethe. Yes, absolutely. And I see Goethe putting a comment on what mistakes. So look at the small print. That's a very good lesson learned the hard way. Classic. Yeah, that's something I think we all learn at some point. To look at these things and really to read everything, although it can be sometimes an effort to do it.
Totally.
Oh, very good. So we're coming towards the end, and
but we had a special freebie too.
Exactly.
Yes, before we wrap up, we wanted to share with you a special freebie. So I'm going to bring this on the screen for you. It's a financial flourishing for kids guide. And
exactly. You can read it. It has like some of these practical tips and the activities and different age groups.
There you go.
Hopefully the QR code also comes visible. There you go. So you can download it with your phone and it gets sent to your email, or you can go to the website, which is going around there at the bottom, to download it.
So you're going to find in there. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say you're going to find more or less the similar structure, what we discussed today, in this guide with different age brackets and some ideas how you can engage, maybe even conversation starters with your kids around money. And there's also a special bonus in there with our very own tips that we have experienced ourselves with our kids. So you can take a look there. That's interesting. And please, if you want to share with us how it is to get out of that comfort zone and start on some of these things that you wouldn't have necessarily thought before about, We'd love to hear how it goes. And I think we are really here setting the foundation, right, for what it means to flourish financially. I think also as parents, we feel like we're flourishing when we're supporting our kids to go in that direction. And we also feel like we're flourishing when we are able to share this experience with other people who want the same. So yeah, if you want to let us know also what's one thing that you want to pass on perhaps to your kids, we're gonna have a few more minutes here that you can contribute to the chat.
Or in case you have questions still in your mind or something that we could answer, if there's something that you've been wondering, you can still enter the comment. It has been quite a discussion, a lot of things that came up. I think every child is also different, right? So you in a way have to also experiment a bit on what works best with your own kids. But I think the main point is being open and positive and constructive in a way about this, right?
Yeah, I think it's really the bottom line here. And it's also some of these topics that we cover in our Flourish Financially program that we're running at the moment with a very nice cohort of ladies. And the money conversations, we're holding them once a month. So we would like to see all of you come to our next one. And if you want to talk about these events around you, we haven't yet decided about what will be the topic for next time. But if you have any requests, again, please share. We're here for that. We love to have, as open as possible conversations. And we can see that money is very versatile in that way, that it touches many areas of our lives. So yeah, that was the 10th one, Minna.
Yes, and I see there is, I think, one takeaway actually, just on the last minute from Felicity. One takeaway for me would be the reframing from "we can't afford it" to "that we are choosing to spend on this," for example.
Right.
Very powerful. Love it. Yes. That is
Oh,
really an excellent one, because that's how we transfer. It's in these everyday situations when we talk about it. That's when these things are being learned by our children, right?
no, totally. And so, yeah, and with the budgeting would be the same, right? Not this idea that you can't be spending on that or that, but yeah, what's the intention there? What do you want to do? I think that's so important. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicity. Very good. And thank you all for joining us today. Yeah, this is so important. Teaching our kids about money is just much more than just the numbers, and it's about confidence, resilience, and setting them up for a flourishing future. So thank you so much for being here with us today, and we look forward to being in touch with you soon.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Minna, and see you soon.
Yes, thank you, Sophie, as well. See you very soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.